try to go through 3 poems in a haiku. I'll try to go through them fast. But am I the only one who's kind of cold?
Yeah, pretty cold out.
Right. So, this poem is like 8 years old, and it's about having a summer job when all your friends are at the beach. It's a very neo-Marxist perspective. It's called Misprinted Excerpt. At about midsummer, the heat has yet to reach its capacity. Oceans evaporate some, and there is sweat, because heat causes sweat, maybe vaporizes a few droplets. But when temperatures peak and break records in this never-ending weather Olympiad, it can sometimes feel like the ocean has been dumped on you, or like you've just emerged from the ocean, and then it breaks you. There was that spoiled baby who was held beneath a drawn bath and felt naked a little longer, and now that she's swimming, she does not intend to hold her breath just for fun, while the starving artist manages to do without the sketch unsurviving. The undeniable fact lies in that when you are underwater, your vision is impaired. Objects seem wavy, intangible, and a mutation of what they truly are. Distance and direction can only be assumed. Up is down, down is up. A three-dimensional time-lapse of temporary civility. The ultimate cocoon for those who can handle isolation and sounds similar to that of melted audio cassettes. Self-help preface to reproduction. Quitters never prosper, and they don't. So when you resurface and your eyes widen to the landscape, there's an overwhelming sensation to touch a tree and watch your arm begin to branch, extending to the windows of closed infinite space, looking through every pane of glass like a photograph meant for someone else, not fitting for a frame, too familiar for a fence, only for the atoms and molecules of a sunbeam's cornucopia. They are to blame for all this sneezing. This one too was written 8 years ago. Even though I'm a grad student, I really believe that education can kill creativity. They try to put you in a box, try to get you to think a certain way. So this is a meta-analysis on different forms of knowledge and learning and education. It's called I Wish for Teleportation. During class, a student takes out his number 2 pencil and begins sketching on the glossy laminate surface of his desk the outline of a man. A figure conceived in his mind, a blank man, plain, old friend whose name he has somehow forgotten. In the classroom where he and his peers sit in rows and stare to the front fixated in study, his head is tilted forward 23 degrees on the axis of his neck. Focused on his drawing, he is spun and sent. Like the planets above align and move along the rails of their orbital hoops. As an astronaut, an interplanetary venturer, who wears a wristwatch that malfunctions beyond the frontiers of gravity, and accepts defeat under the notion that as quickly as he learned to tell time, time became his most telling feature. The lead glides effortlessly, skating over the elliptical grain veneer used to disguise a brittle wood composite to which he is assigned from leaving, but now allowed him to float. And because its slight slant would cause his pencil to roll off and click on the floor's tile, drawing attention to him, he had to hold on and draw, persist as undetected as most asteroids, but continue in a single fell swoop. The satellite surveys, the angiogram cities, the roads and highways were no more than arteries, circulating heartlessly. As heartless as the antibody commuter and coagulated traffic. Heavy with concentration and careful not to smear, the empty cell of a man is nearing perfection. Swinging into position, the Landsat camera prepares to take its image. Snap. The teacher's yardstick meets his desk. His neck pulls back and he looks up. Class time is frozen, but the planets, like the cogs and gears of a clock, play on uninterrupted. His face descends the ladder of hash-mark measurements back to the unfinished trace. He is forced to erase his illustration, to listen, and while later the class was dismissed, he is told to stay after and is lectured and punished. Having learned that the day's lesson plan was no less fragile and fleeting, he claps the blackboard erasers together and disappears in a cloud of white chalk. Okay, so I'm not a big fan of writing love poems. Only because I don't think I'm very good at them. But the next two are love poems. I'll start it off with a haiku. This one's pretty old. It's called, it's a haiku, so might be fast. It's called To the Girl of My Dreams. To the Girl of My Dreams. I'll know I found you if I sta. All right, yeah. See, so my perspective on love, because I've been thinking about this a lot, is that love waits for no one. Love happens. You don't know when it's going to happen. You can't plan for it to happen. It just happens. In fact, love just happens. It works out on its own clock. Cupid is so busy making love happen that he doesn't even have time to take a shit. That's why he wears a diaper. That's why love stinks. That love stinks. Okay, so this is a poem that I wrote. This is a new one I wrote it this week. Really, again, I don't really write love poems. I just strung together a lot of my tweets on Twitter, a lot of my status updates, and I strung together like a quick poem. So the working title of this poem is Baby, if I could rearrange the alphabet, I'd put Q and U together. It just makes more sense. Okay. Physiologically, he is breathing heavy because his blood is moving faster. His lungs are cold, expanding, contracting, crushing his heart into a perfect diamond for the monocle moon. His eyes flutter like slot machines from dilated O's to X's. The doctor says it looks good on paper, cleans his glasses and proclaims it's terminal. Family members gathered around his bed rejoice, miraculous. But his story will never be published in science journals for lack of any rational understanding. He signs his release, he signs the new lease, to wander like the disease in his own body. And within the four corners of every crooked city, there are some with zombiotic, bliss-filled heads, while others, hoping to catch this common cold, share unsympathetic looks and talk about the recent headlines. Did you hear about the man whose love dances at the bottom of the Atlantic? He was last seen walking east wearing concrete boots. We'll never see him again, but at least he found a purpose. He is only sort of productive, smashing O's into walls, taping X's for renovation. The deconstruction of her makes everything else look ugly. Friends say they aren't the least bit concerned that they can't find his footprints. Colleagues report a noticeable absence in his handshakes, speculate the work of a new endangered species, and return to their own captivity to spread the latest office gossip. Did you hear about the man whose love was an angel on a cloud? He drank gasoline outside a dive bar and lit himself on fire. He was hot like a New York disco, but she is not a DJ, and she will never have to lift the plate. Still, he will continue nodding to the music, agreeing with everything she is. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. And for those of you